Thank you, team, and thank you to all of you here tonight. So as we arrive here from our day and officially start, always starting with gratitude. And I am going to give a shout out here to so many here. So we have people from Illinois, New York, Maryland, Illinois again, Baltimore, English Institute. Sandeep, I'm not sure where you're from, but thank you for joining here and being amazing and interested for MBSEL. And Jamie, thank you. Illinois, Illinois, you're in the house today. Dubuque, Iowa. Singapore, thank you. Yes, and the beauty about COSEM is we really do span worldwide. Most of us are in the United States, but we really touch from all over. And even one of our board members is from Jakarta, who has also been from Canada. So we are trying to always keep that global lens, and hopefully that comes through today as well. So I'm just going to do a quick check through to make sure everyone is muted. Okay. So, as I mentioned, this is recorded. We do intend to put it on our YouTube so that we can have it accessible for everybody, as well as our member platform. So for those of you who are currently members, this is absolutely a part of your professional development credit hours if you wish. We will put the sign-in link. So again, team, one of those links is our sign-in link. If you could find that and go ahead and pop that in there just to make sure everybody's able to sign in today. And also for those watching the recording, you can sign in at this time too. And that allows us to keep track for professional development if that's something you'd like. So our journey for today, we're going to be going through and really cultivating our environment for this exploration together. We're calling it a workshop, but it's more or less of a share today. It's almost like workshop part 1, because there's so much that's happening that we are excited to share, that there'll definitely be additional opportunities to go deeper and deeper, because you are the first to hear this. Like, this is huge. And we're grateful that all of you are change makers along the way with us. So we'll be tapping into how our educational system is growing into that ecosystem that's constantly evolving. And we're going to be exploring how we elevate our current SEL practices through mindfulness-based SEL. And then what are some next steps that maybe you might be interested in, and then just exploring together. I will share as well, I'm just interested that if we do breakout rooms, would this group be open to it? You can put yes or no in the chat, and I just want to hold that space and honor if it's not a comfortable space today. So please share in the chat. And as you share, either yes, no, or it depends. And even if some of you might be driving, it's okay. Like, I can still open the room, and that way we have some reflection. Yes, you could totally be off camera. Thank you for putting that in as well. So go ahead and share. For our space, we always like to offer these agreements as listening and sharing with an open heart. All voices are heard and valued. We ask questions and we stay curious, especially with this newness that we have, and knowing that the key word we keep using is evolving. So you never know, maybe something within our conversations, even this evening with this group, might propel something else that we can evolve further, and then to see the possibilities. And then we always leave just that open one at the bottom in case anyone here would like to have us add another agreement for our time. And I do want to mention time. I am going to make this around an hour. Okay, so that is our time frame we're looking at. And because we know we'll have more times in the future, I want to honor that time for us here, especially being the evening for many of you, or really early for some of you, depending where in the world we may be, and on a Thursday, right? Okay, so I see in the chat box, basically from what I see is yes, that we can do a breakout room or a couple throughout the time, depends on our timing. And as you've already experienced, our chat box is going to be our main form of engagement. So please use that for this, and know that sometimes it takes a while to type. That's okay. Share your thoughts, share your voice, because all these contributions matter. All right, I'm just going to do a quick check-in with everybody here that I see. Okay, I just want to check. All right. So we always, as an organization, also come back to our vision and mission. So we always contribute this to our space to ground us in what we do. So I do want to read this out loud to all of us, and maybe there might be certain parts of it that connect to you today for your intention. So Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully, COSEM or COSEM, both are correct. We call it COSEM because that is what our founder has always shared for it to be. And we're basically a microcosm of education. So both are okay. We get that question often. Is an educator-led 501c3 grassroots nonprofit supporting school communities through learning experiences, communities of practice, mentors, and resources for mindfulness-based social and emotional learning, MBSEL. We empower education professionals to explore, personally practice, and create an inclusive culture of well-being in our schools through advocating and developing embodied sustainable systems of care. By joining together as we integrate holistic approaches in education, we equip ourselves, our students, and our communities with skills to heal and thrive and create a more equitable, mindful, and compassionate world. It's a really big vision, but all of us are called into this really big work. So again, gratitude to all of you, all of us doing this work together. Thanks for the heart, Dina. I appreciate it. So this actually is a picture, one of my pictures. Do any of you know where it's from? I'm just curious. I bet Carrie probably does. Yellowstone, good try. It is not Yellowstone. Yosemite, yes, I knew Carrie, I knew you would. Yosemite. And it came across a memory that I had, and I'm like, that's it for today for our grounding practice. And we are really shifting the landscape of education, but we also have the landscape of ourselves and our hearts. So we're going to ground here with an invitational practice just for a few moments before we get into everything else. So just see if you need to make any other adjustments before we engage in our practice. It'll just be a short one, about a minute or so. And then perhaps you look around wherever you may be. We often invite this so that we can really bring ourselves present in this moment where we are. And maybe I'd invite you to look for something green, or maybe there's a window nearby that you can just see something that is beyond this space. Maybe in the image that's on the screen, you might connect to something there. Whatever helps you connect to your own landscape within, knowing that that landscape within is also a reflection of what the landscape can be. And then maybe you allow your eyes to close or look nearby or at the picture and begin to tune inward. Maybe that looks like or feels like or sounds like noticing your body, breath, emotions, and thoughts. Just what's present, knowing that there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just this moment to check in. And with that awareness, perhaps bringing to mind again just that landscape and knowing and connecting to the growth, the thriving, the compassion, and the being. And cultivating those qualities within ourselves so that we can cultivate that in our classrooms, our schools, and education as a whole. And perhaps maybe connecting to your breath. You might imagine this breath basically coming in as you're planting this intention within your own heart, your own mind, your own purpose, knowing that it's there to nourish and grow along the way. Maybe you take 3 more breaths here on your own rhythm. And whenever you're ready, there's no rush. On an inhale, coming back to this time together as we grow together with compassion and thriving. Thank you all for that practice. And again, there's never a rush, just coming back as you're ready, eyes back to the screen. As we move into the shifting landscape. And maybe in the chat, I'm curious, what are some things that you've noticed that have started to shift? It's kind of a big question. I wasn't sure I was going to ask this question, but it's what came. So I'm just curious, are there some patterns or noticings of things that are currently shifting in education? And we'll just pause for a moment. Welcome to those who are just joining us too. The question right now for those who are joining us is, we just finished coming out from a connection practice, and we're just tapping into what we're noticing is shifting a little bit in education. So far in the chat, we have the negotiation of AI, increased SEL awareness, educator mental health matters, yes. More in-school mental health, supports for students and staff, a shift in connecting mental health before academic success. More emphasis, yes, so definitely a great theme here and is why we're here, right? And although there's this shift that's happening, there may not have been a direction for how to make it happen. So hopefully tonight we have that. And really this question, I guess, connected to that. But I'm going to pose it because it is a little bit different and it just allows us to think a little bit more. And this was a question that I keep bringing up basically in all of my presentations lately because it is very essential. Because the purpose of schools and what the purpose was in the past, present, and future is also shifting. So I'm curious, if somebody were to ask you, what is the purpose of schools? How would you answer that? So we all have this responsibility to be able to really stand in that purpose. So again, in the chat, just think about what truly is the purpose. And I will share, we had our Mindful AI Summit a few weeks ago, last month really, and we had a really rich connection to this question. And actually, any of my team members, if you can pull that, actually, here, hold on. I'm going to repost all of those links because people have come back in. But if you can post specifically the AI Summit, which may or may not be.
Raise these stocks up with the water.
Okay, thank you. Which may or may not be listed on here yet. You can pull that from our website or on one of the slides for the recording of that, just so everyone has it. All right, so the purpose. A safe place for kids to go and be loved and educated. The past, to educate for a job, right? Let's see. That's creating a foundation for young people to learn and develop a sense of self. That's really powerful. Aha! Emily, I love this. I don't know if you saw coming forward, but mindful global citizens will be coming back up here. Kaylee, I didn't even notice that you came in. Good to see you. Well, now I actually have to see you. There you are. Hey, and your little one too. Foster curiosity and discernment while providing evolving intellectual, physical, and emotional support. And a safe space for creativity and academic growth. Yeah, so really like seeing how this, we're really bridging different worlds and philosophies together. And mindfulness-based SEL will let us do that. And this slide is also one more I like to always share, just because I think it just really helps portray the change process. And when we are sharing anything new, this is a really great resource to just invite the conversation of where we may be in the process. So we've talked about this with our Mindful AI Summit for people shifting mindsets there. But when we're talking about this through mindfulness-based SEL, it also is a shift. And so people may need to connect to these different stages. Like, are we in the caterpillar stage and learning? Are we going through the really goopy times when the whole caterpillar's body turns to imaginal cells, which is really a cool thing, and we get to create from there? Or are we finally like moving towards spreading our wings, right? Like, so it just allows a good conversation support as a resource, and maybe just noticing where you might be too today. And so this change that we have is really calling us forward as advocates and change makers. And I wanted to add here, because there might be some of you here today who are in states that may or may not be supporting social and emotional learning. And there are several states who are actively trying to silence SEL. And instead of coming from a place of, I'm going to say it's not fear, but the word fear is coming up here for me to share. It's almost like we're afraid to say SEL in certain contexts. Like, I've been working with different organizations who are starting to change their wording around that. And this is a call for us to say, you know what? It is more than soft skills, which I also say they are essential skills. And if any of us share that they're soft skills, we should correct ourselves and others to say they are essential skills. So that is another advocacy piece, as well as SEL. And we stand by this, which is why within our framework that we're sharing, we are committing to calling it what it is. It is not just character building. We are developing social and emotional skills. We are developing humans. We are not developing characters. And I want to say character building is a part of it. And that character building all allows us to do what we need to do. But when you think about it and you pull some of those pieces apart, it doesn't give you everything. It doesn't bring the authenticity. We here are advocating that we all are empowered to speak this out loud. I'm just going back to the chat real quick here. creating compassionate and kind humans that will explore the whole brain of SEL, as well as personal academic successes in a variety of avenues. Thank you for sharing. And so with all of these pieces that are calling us to be these change makers, to be these advocates, research upon research continuously validates this work. CASEL's research, over 30 years worth, is continuing to elevate all of this. And I always am coming back to this, the article, the guide that came out from the CDC last December that specifically states 6 core actions, and 3 of them were social emotional learning, mindfulness, and adult well-being. We have what we need, especially if we are in communities that are saying it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Thank you all for holding the space together here. Oh, I feel my heart, that's why. Thank you. So there is a missing layer within our current SEL practices, which is where mindfulness-based SEL takes SEL to the next level. And we'll put there also, it's not necessarily that it's been missing because it's been stated, but the how has been missing. The accountability has been missing. The flexibility of how it looks has been missing. So we'll take a breath here and just gratitude, reconnecting back to that intention, that seed. Feel free at any time to add anything in the chat. All right. So here, now that we know that there's something that's been missing, we'll take us down a path here, or along and on a path. So we're not going down, we only go up here. So in regards to us as an organization, we were founded in 2018 by Tracy Heilers. She's amazing. She's not here this evening, but she definitely has shared her love with everybody here and is grateful for everyone to be here. And her intention when she founded this, and Denise has been since the beginning here, is that she wanted to infuse mindfulness and SEL in education, and especially nurturing the adults within education. All of those seem to be what the CDC says. Then 2021 happened within our organization, and we developed our Micro-Credential Program. And this is a one-of-a-kind program. There's no other one like it. And it's, instead of calling it a program, we like to call it a learning experience. And several of you on this call are starting to take this as a part of your plan or ready for your growth and learning. And that is incredible. So thank you for being here. And some of you are even a part, yes, are a part of group members who are even investing to give you scholarships to be here. Like, it just blows my mind where we're going as an organization in this work together collectively. And the reason for that micro-credential is so that we can create a foundation for MBSEL to thrive with educators at the heart. And then we continue learning more. And that's bringing us here today, where we have now created an MBSEL Integration Framework and Skill Progression. And the reason behind that is because as MBSEL continues to grow, and I will say the first time that it came up in research was around 2015. So it still is relatively a new term that people are using. And so we started to notice that it was being used more, but there wasn't like a common, not that we're saying there's not one way to get there, but we wanted to create guidance for common understandings and common components, a part of the framework. And it starts with adult embodiment. And I have to give a shout out to all of our leadership team who have helped to create this framework, as well as some of our leaders who have moved into other leadership spaces, but Matt Weld, who is here today, Lori Seidel, as well as Ann Casa, they have all helped with this. And I have to definitely acknowledge the writing team and core group of people who were developing these. Myself, and I'm from Illinois, Carrie Rohrbach, who is here, and she is from California, and then Kaylin Fullerton, who is from Jakarta. All of us together, we're really trying to connect this as our team to help you through our own practices, your practices, and research. So just deep gratitude for all of the people who have been a part of this work. And again, welcome to those of you who are just joining us, I saw. And feel free, team, if any of you want to put those links back in the chat again, just so that the new attendees have that information too. So why do we need to have a framework? Well, we know, especially like CASEL, once they provided that framework, it allowed so much work to be able to happen. And I don't always like to call it work. I like to call it like a mission. It really is a mission. And we have this so that we can support education with how to put well-being and MBSEL into practice, to show how everything interconnects. That is huge. We have so many philosophies and connections, but we've never seen it all together. So we wanted to show and create this interconnection of these practices and ways of being and support each other, how all of it supports each other. The common language, definitions, and components, as I shared, and also providing these guiding foundational principles that are holistic, broad, and adaptable. And that's key here too. And I know several of you are here from some of our partners, or you have different curricular programs that you have. That's the beauty of this framework, is it allows the flexibility to connect these powerful resources in this way that is aligned with mindfulness-based SEL. I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to check the chat. There's a couple more things here. Okay, thank you. And thank you, team, for monitoring. So as we move a little bit further now, we want to define what this is. And I'm very excited that, I saw a comment earlier, just how much this is aligned. This is beautiful. So SEL, this is really that outside in approach where there's explicit skill instruction. And when we look at the definition, especially from CASEL, these are the processes that we go through, that all of us go through, no matter our age, to acquire. So again, that outside in, what skills do I need to learn? I'm going to acquire them and then apply that knowledge, skills, and attitudes across those competencies. Mindfulness is that inside out approach where we're coming into this place of presence with awareness and intentionality before even engaging in that outward connection. So it's not an either or, it's an and. And we define here, and you'll see this often throughout. So the writing team that we had, myself, Carrie, and Kaylin, you'll notice that it says COSEM manuscript. We have a manuscript out. It has not been published yet, and we're waiting to hear if it has been approved, but we are looking forward to, no matter where it gets published, it will be. But we really, really hope for this journal that it will get into. So you'll see that throughout here, because the content within that manuscript is such a clear and supportive way of integrating all of this. So mindfulness, defined within the school context, is the ability to be fully present with compassion, understanding, and curiosity. So we hold on to all of those different components while we're integrating with our social and emotional learning practices. So essentially, we're moving from the explicit, which we need, into embodiment. And really, you could put an arrow that goes both ways, because really it's also embodiment into explicit. It's that doing into being, and same thing, from being into doing. So we keep talking about this word embodiment, and sometimes in education, it's not a normal word that we always talk about, but we hope that will be someday. And there's no other word that really captures the meaning. So let's start talking about it. So the keyword embodied, it varies from past approaches within SEL because it's advocating for the adults to learn and integrate MBSEL skills prior to or alongside their students. Often when we have been instructing with SEL, there's been a curriculum, and often as we share in our manuscript, sometimes it feels like we teach for completion and compliance instead of for impact and sustainability. And although this takes time, it is time well spent because we are not just shifting education, right? Education is just the starting place for people's lives. And like, it just blows my mind on how much impact we have on lives, right? All of us. And so integrating embodied practices through MBSEL and offers the sustainable and supportive solution. And the last, but really first element here is it gives permission to educators and leaders to nurture their own well-being as an integral part of the educational experience. We are not last. We are not like, you know, we just always hear and feel this it's like I can't even put the word on it, but I know all of you know what I'm talking about. And feel free to put in the chat if you have that word. But it's almost like a guilt feeling too sometimes with well-being, and that should never, ever be the case. But imagine what could happen in education if we actually had it an integrated part of the whole experience. And acknowledging here as well that CASEL has a whole focus area too, all around strengthening adult SEL competencies and capacities. And every time I mention this to different leaders, they look at me as if they have never seen this before. And so this is where that missing link is because it's been optional to actually care for ourselves. It should not be optional for well-being. Well-being is not optional. It's well-being. I'm checking the chat here. We are all part of a school community, and in a community, we may have different roles, but not different worth. Exactly how powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. So then all of this brings us to actually defining mindfulness-based SEL. And this is something we are recommending as a common definition. And our whole team worked through this to really capture what is happening. And there are two things as well that are highlighted here. So I'm going to speak this out loud too. MBSEL is an embodied way of focusing on the well-being of the whole self and community through cultivating awareness, connection, regulation, and discernment as mindful global citizens. I see a heart, I see multiple hearts, and I see clapping. Thank you. Yes, it is like when we look at each of those parts of this definition, it now gives us the what, the why, the how, the who we get to be. We get to be mindful global citizens. I feel like that has been like part of this missing piece, because there hasn't been a why. It's been a, how do we teach this? It hasn't been a why, and it hasn't been an impact. This statement and definition help to expand this why and who we get to be and who we get to cultivate our students to be. Whew. It feels good to speak that out loud, everybody. So then here's the other thing, right? Well, what does it mean to be a mindful global citizen, right? We want to make sure we all are on the same path here. That mindful global citizens value the interconnection between themselves and the world by embodying presence, self-awareness, cultural competency, and social justice. They are lifelong learners who advocate and take action for an equitable, ethical, and sustainable society. Now, you tell me, who does not want to be a mindful global citizen? Actually, the better question is, who is a mindful global citizen? And feel free to put in the chat or a heart or whatever that may be for you, because this is who we get to be in the world. So why adult focused? And we've shared that as a growing field, the focus and research always has been validating this, and especially the importance of adult well-being. And so we can finally start taking that negative spiral that we're feeling, and so much with like this heaviness, this reactivity, and we're holding a lot of that within our world. And we can take that to actually create an expanded positive ripple effect. So in order to nurture our students, adults must be at the heart of the change process. I know we've said this multiple times, but this is the biggest part. This is the biggest part, because you, we, I matter. And when we matter, our students matter. Our parents and learning communities matter. And instead of starting with students, we start with ourselves. It's a step to help adults in the learning communities to experience and cultivate the skills. And especially, and I think this has also been a gap, is it's a step to help families and communities to be a part of the experience collectively, because there are misunderstandings, because they're not experiencing it. So if we start with the adults when we're all experiencing it, then where is the misunderstanding when we can experience together? So let's reflect here and think about, if you're currently embodying social and emotional skills, how can it or how has it supported you or might support you in your teaching and leading? Or maybe you want to take the lens of, wow, this is something that I'm curious about, and I'm curious what this would do to support my colleagues or leaders I work with. Or maybe there's a school climate component here. Or maybe you just have questions, reflections, and insights. And I am going to, as I mentioned in the beginning, this will be at least one breakout room here, because again, as a community, we thrive in a community, and it's good to connect with others in our community. And it'll be probably about a 5-minute breakout room, but just to explore these things that are coming up. And I'm recognizing like our time here, so I do want to make sure that we have enough time for just digesting all of this and then coming back together and actually going into our resources and support at the end. So I'm going to create a breakout room. And there'll probably be, I think I'm going to do 4 of you in a room. And I know somebody just joined. We are about ready to go in a breakout room. So just be in that space and feel inspired as you wish and connect with. So it's totally okay. It'll just be a short 5-minute just way to connect and just kind of digest the information. I'm going to pause the recording, and I'm
Thank you.
And create, yes, thank you too. And it's really about just listen where everybody's coming in at from, and share as you feel inspired. So here we go. Opening up all the rooms, 5 minutes on the clock. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. I know it is not a lot of time, but thank you for sharing and connecting with everybody. And we really needed to kind of create this common foundation. And I would encourage you, because we're not going to have time to share, if you don't mind, maybe taking a few moments to share any insights or takeaways in the chat. I'm going to keep moving forward a little bit here tonight because I said I'd honor an hour, though I had thought about doing an hour and a half, but I know it's late for people. Hey, Athea, good to see you. I didn't even notice you were here earlier. So we'll take one collective breath in to reground ourselves here, breathing in and out. All right. So the next couple of experiences that we'll be sharing together is really now taking our current practices and elevating them to the next level. And again, this is not in place of, it is the next level of. So we need all of this, but how does it go together? And CASEL has been an amazing, powerful resource that continues to guide this work. And so now we're going to kind of share a little bit here the transformation of this leveling up, this elevation and amplification. So when we're thinking about CASEL, it's really providing that foundation. And then we are then taking the foundation and then creating connection. It's becoming this bridge. And so you'll notice what's bolded here, even on this slide, that awareness moves into connection. Management moves into regulation. Responsible moves into mindful. And social awareness and relationships move into connection, social connection. And to really make this connection here, team, can you put in the chat the skill progression link? I'm going to click on this in a moment, but all of you will have it. And this is an invitation for afterward, because it takes a bit to digest different pieces, but just so you have this awareness that there is a tool that we've created. And what this does is it becomes this continuum where we can start from the awareness and move to mindfulness-based SEL. And that's where you can see it in basically a chart form where it starts from that foundation and moves. So this resource will be essential to help define what these different components are within the framework. It will help to provide the guidance on developing different resources and aligning resources. And I want to mention here, for those who are taking the micro-credential, we are going to have a module around this as well. So tonight is really showing you what is here, and we will have further learnings, and especially those in the micro-credential program, you will have even more insights to this soon. But I just wanted to show you how this really connects. And especially like the last part here, where both of those competencies move into the social connection, and also how mindful is attached to each one. There's a difference between, I'll just go with, because this is here, the responsible decision making. For example, sure, it's responsible for me to clean up a mess or clean up after myself. However, mindful decision making would mean, when I clean up, there's an impact that it has on somebody else, that it is cleaned for somebody else. Oh, I can notice that maybe I had something that can be recycled and that can help contribute back. It just takes that next level. Self-awareness is great. I might know that my face is hot, but that might not mean that I'm doing anything about it. So then the next level is, now that I can be aware within, I have a self-connection within, what do I do with that information? So that's one resource that you have. And now, I want to come back here. We really do refer to this came out of a conversation with the writing team about really referring to this as evolving education ecosystem. And so this here is the framework. And I will take a couple minutes, and if you have to pop off, totally fine, we have this recorded. But if you'd like to stay on, I will just go a little bit later. I know I said I'd honor that time, so I'm honoring that in this adaptation of if you have to leave, no problem at all. So with this framework, we really are connecting all the different components to this in an ecosystem. And we're nurturing it. We're trying to show that it's not just a graphic that's there. It helps us to really embody the concepts. So we really start with the sun being the educator and leader embodiment, and the sun's always cultivating its energy. It's always cultivating that space where it shines from and out and illuminates from. And that then contributes to the entire ecosystem. And then inside, we then move to the raindrops, and those are the practices, those are a doing, where we combine all of the powerful practices that research shows that need to happen and how it connects. Those then fall into the ripples, and it starts with the self, which is why self is bigger, and it continues to ripple out throughout the community, grounded by the presence that's there when we are fully present. And on that mountain, you can look and be an observer from any point of view and any way that you can start and be in this framework. That water is then nurtured through the roots within the trees that then create the competencies, which are what we just shared, the skill progression. And you do read it basically from left to right because we have our self-connection, our regulation, decision-making, and the social connection all mindfully here. And then it could stay, but we take it to that next level of, yes, that ecosystem is wonderful as it is. However, the next step is action and advocacy, which is that stream that then invites that after we've embodied these different components, we take it out into the world. And that's where we go into become the ocean of mindful global citizens. So there's so much more that we will be sharing about this, but we just wanted to at least have you see what is coming. And also, team, can you please put, I believe there's the link to that framework as well. Can you drop that in the chat as well? If not, I'll make sure that it's there in the email that goes out afterward. So just kind of recapping, the skill progression is the what. The competencies here within our framework, the mindfulness-based integration framework, is the how. The raindrops are really the doing, but then the ecosystem as a whole is the being. And we'll give more resources around this. So I'm just going to pause here for our final reflection for the evening and just see, like, What are your noticings? What are your wonderings? What is something that might be coming up from any of the things that you've seen or even the integration framework? And just share in the chat as it comes up for you. And then as you're doing that, I will mention we have some things that are forthcoming. So as I shared, we will have tutorial modules within our micro-credential. They're being developed. And most of those will be developed probably by the end of October or so. So for those in the program, just so you know, there will be some more guidance that will be there. And if any of you are interested in joining us there, let us know. You can always join us at any time. It's self-paced. We'll also be adding how MBSEL is the ethical framework for AI and HI. And Athea was just here and she had just written an article. So we'll make sure you have that article too. We'll be developing a webpage that will have some resources to support you and how you might be integrating this and sharing out further, as well as the monthly MBSEL lesson inspirations. And this is the tool that we're giving you this evening. Each month, we will be creating a resource that you can then share in your classrooms, because Dina, who's here, who is our circle facilitator, she developed our themes for this year. And our circles are our embodied practice opportunities. And from those embodied opportunities, the lessons align to it too. So you have something that is for you through our circles, and then through the lessons that will be directly aligned to that same theme for application in your classroom or wherever you are supporting. Now, this one is for everybody. We'll be giving this time. But for those of you who are members, there will be a special location on our member site that you'll be able to find them as they become available. And then just sharing here from our micro-credential. We'll put in our follow-up email what this is about. It is just the next level of support if it is of interest to you. It's self-paced. There are learning modules. There's monthly mentoring. Some of you have already shared how amazing the book has been, which is wonderful to hear. And then you'll eventually be able to integrate these practices with ease in what you do. And then also moving into a integration and implementation plan, and you'll have support along the way. So know that that is an option to also help you on this journey. So with that, we'll take a collective breath to really close. I will stay on for other questions and comments, but please go ahead if you feel comfortable, just placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Reconnecting back to you, back to your intention. And just feel what's present, feel what's possible. Imagine what's possible. And then we'll take one collective breath in and one collective breath out.